Hello and welcome back to the ABC Conclave Day 2 at Thailand. So I have Yat Siu over here. You already familiar with him because he's been to us in previous editions as well. So he's the chairman and co-founder of the Animoca Games. And recently I've been seeing that Animoca Games has been shifted not just into the gaming industry, but they are also expanding to different sectors as well. So what made you change that and how is it doing?
Well, so first, Animoca today has over 540 portfolio companies, and roughly 160 or so are in gaming. So you can see there's a whole range of other ones that we've been doing. And to be fair, we've actually done non-gaming blockchain investments really back in 2018 already. I mean, we were early investors in things like
They're much more screen forward.
well, it is, but for instance, like NFT marketplaces like OpenSea, and nowadays like OpenMagic Eden, for instance, or L1, L2s, right, as well. Back then it used to be called Matic, now Polygon, right? Those are things that we were also investing in to help grow and support the ecosystem. And I think a lot of people also don't know that actually in 2018 we did over 60 AI investments as well, right, in different areas. Not all Web3 at the time, but many of them were doing Web3 related stuff. So anyway, it's to say that when we think of the network, everything empowers the network is a collective of a whole. So in other words, you can't just say, if you want to grow Web3, you can't just focus only on gaming. You got to focus on all the areas that we think have sort of the highest chance for things like delivering digital property rights and creating mass adoption, right? And so even when we invested in companies like Dapper Labs, for instance, it was about sports distribution, NBA Top Shot, for instance, back in the day, right? So the mission of digital property rights and creating mass adoption in Web3, that still stays the same. It's just that how we get there. But we're still very, very bullish on gaming, and in particular now also, NFTs again. And where I would say I think NFTs are going to make a very big comeback. We think in the next 12 months.
And what are your thoughts about like NFT initially? People tend to invest a lot at the beginning stage because that's where the FOMO is being created. Like everybody is hopping on to grab some random NFT to get their prices high. But now people are much more into analyzing actually what exactly is the use case of it and how is that taking forward.
Well, so first of all, like with anything in life, even back then as well as today, do your own research, right? I mean, that's always important. And one of the things that I find interesting is that when NFTs first started, remember, NFTs have been around really, in more mainstream way, really since CryptoKitties, right? So obviously there's been NFT experimentations before that, and obviously CryptoPunks is perhaps the one that first really made people think about it because it wasn't actually an ERC 721, and then of course CryptoKitties made it more mainstream. But really, when NFTs actually became something that was more speculative and was more about how to make money and maybe create wealth, that actually happened in 21.
Yes.
Didn't really happen really in a big way, in the years prior to that. And so why would people buy the NFTs back then was around culture, and it was about social capital, and it was about symbolic capital. Oh, I have this cool item. I think this is exciting, or I can use this inside a game, or I could be the owner of this piece of land in Sandbox. I mean, those were the reasons you bought it. And I often give that example back in the day that it's a little bit not just about the value, it's about the emotional, sentimental aspect around it as well. Kind of like a wedding ring, for instance. It's not valuable in terms of dollar per se, but its emotional, sentimental value is actually priceless. But then in 21 and early 22, basically you had sort of peak hype, as it were, and many people were not actually buying NFTs because they wanted the NFT. They bought the NFT just to sell it, or to buy and to flip it because they thought they would make a lot of money. And that narrative has now been taken over by meme coins, right? So in some ways, that cycle, that economic cycle of economic capital shifted from NFTs to meme coins. But in reality, they're the same thing. Because, for instance, meme coins now are actually issuing NFTs of their own, right?
Yes.
So before, I would say that what happened, and also remember that NFT collections also started issuing tokens of their own, right? And why did they do that? Both of them are looking to expand the network. So the way that we think of it is that NFTs built a core community because there's only thousands, thousands of holders, and then the struggle they had, how do I make the community bigger? And so that's when they decided to launch a token or do something around the range of how do I expand the community by tokenizing, by creating a token framework that is more fungible, right?
Yes.
So effectively, kind of launching a meme coin, if you will, right? So making it more economic and more social in nature. Whereas meme coins actually began economic and social, and now they're saying, okay, great, I have all these community members. How do I make my community stronger? How do I create more culture? How do I create more social capital? And that's why they're issuing NFTs. So to us, they're kind of, within the same they're within the same mix, as it were. They're just approaching them differently from, let's say, top to bottom or bottom to top, but it's still basically, the same construct.
Apart from this whole NFT and concept, uh, some people say that meme coin gonna dilute after some time or just be there like small clubs that people used to have, right? It's just like they like some sort of clubs and they just be there. It doesn't matter if it's gonna make them grow their portfolio or something, but they join it regardless of what the utility of that is. So is that really a thing that they're going to be diluted or actually gonna stay for a long time?
So generally speaking, meme coins are representations of a certain kind of digital culture, and the same basically is what I said with NFTs. Is that I think NFTs is basically stores of digital culture, but in slightly different nuances. In the case of meme coins, I think of them as perhaps one of the purest expression of the attention economy, right? And when you think about back in the early days of the internet, like chat rooms and message boards and blogs and like Reddit subgroups and all these things, they're actually memes, right? They're actually memes, right? The only difference is that these memes are not expressed in a financial way, right? But through tokenization, now you have a financial value attached to it that can give it a type of financial attention that didn't exist before. And what we found is that it actually supercharges that attention in both good and bad ways. So does it mean that we think it's going to be a niche? No, not absolutely not, because that's like saying memes are a niche, which is not true. Memes are going to be everywhere. However, does it mean that every meme will be big? No. Okay. And does it mean that every meme will last? No, as well, right? So in similar fashion, I would say, again, meme culture are great at creating trends, right, and virality. But at the end of the day, trends and virality are not network effects. So I go back to this principle of, to build a lasting Web3 economy, you need to think about an infrastructure. You need to think about building strong network effects. And that's one of the reasons why I go back again, why meme coins have launching NFTs. And that's because they need to create stronger and tighter network effects within the community. So, you could have 1 million users, but if it's only about holding the token, the network might dilute because what defends the network from other people that basically might sort of dilute the value of the network, right? So you have to contribute and add value to it. And so I fully expect, by the way, that many of these meme coins, the next step for these meme coins is going to be launching games. I actually think that meme coins are going to be launching their own games, whether it's the community or whether it's other companies like us participating in it, or whether this is basically, maybe the foundation themselves saying we're going to support a game. Not that different from an L1, L2. But at the end of the day, we think they're going to do something similar. And this could be other things, whether it's DeFi protocols or other mechanisms. But I think games makes more sense and NFTs makes more sense because they're more sort of tied to culture.
Because games are the things that people tend to hold on for a very long time. Talking about a random game, just like CS:GO. CS:GO has been like more than decades, right? So even after so long, just few graphical improvements has been done to the game, but the maps and the whole core of the game is still the same, right? And people hold on to it. So that's where I think, yes, that's a good spot where meme coins and any other project can hop onto and add more value to their existing ecosystem, right? And you've been have a very strong core into the gaming industry, right? So what do you think about the newer implementations of like the metaverse and the Web3 assets within the gaming community? Because currently in the Web3 ecoverse, most of the games are just about how I can get more NFTs within my game, how I can earn more tokens, not about the gaming experience. Because game is all about experience, that how I feel after playing this game, not just earning some tokens. So how this going to improve?
Well, so first of all, as I shared maybe earlier in some other talks, gaming, a good game takes some years to build, right? And so when you go to Sandbox season 4, basically the season 4 alpha, there's like hundreds of experiences now, whereas before there was maybe only a few experiences, right? So the experiences get better and better over time, and I think a lot of people are sometimes judging the experience of the Web3 game from what it was, not what it is right now. So take a game that's also in a portfolio called Off the Grid by Godzilla. That's a fantastic looking game. It's one that can compete with, a CS:GO, certainly, and also things like even Apex Legends and PUBG. That to me is a kind of quality game that people are going to play from a fun standpoint, competing at that level. That actually isn't going to be something that a Web2 gamer might even know that he's using tokens or blockchain in the back. He's just basically he's just playing the game and having fun with it. And then you have more Web3 native games like the Pixels, or like basically Axie Infinity. A lot of people used to criticize Axie and say, "Oh, this is a primitive game." Today, it's much more than that, right? And it's much more about just holding the assets and basically sort of a very simple type of gameplay. It's become much more complex. It's become deeper as well. At the end of the day, though, the complexity and sort of, let's call it, the deepness of it isn't related only to gameplay. It's about the state of the network effects. So for instance, what's the biggest game in the world today? It's Roblox.
Yes.
It's not the most best looking game, certainly not, but it has one of the deepest and most powerful network effects that are out there. And I think that's what every product wants to build, and particularly in gaming, that's important. And so how do you build stronger, more powerful network effects? And tokenization adds a new level to creating network effects that actually makes it more valuable and more powerful. But often, and I agree with that, in the beginning, they focused more on the token than on the game when you need both.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's all for the day. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ABC Conclave, right? And it was lovely knowing that you are going to be in Thailand edition as well, because I've seen you in the previous edition for the ABC Conclave, and we'll love to see you in further editions as well. Right? Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you. Thank you.